Death of George Floyd and the trial of Derek Chauvin will be the focus of our A Turning Point special tonight at 7. To preview some of the issues it will explore, we're continuing our series on YWCA of Greater Cleveland's 21-day challenge. January Keaton has a look at the issue of reparations and why it was a keystone of the challenge this year amid increased attention on issues of racial justice.
Listening, learning, inspiring change. As our nation continues to grapple with racial injustice, inequality, and racism, a renewed spotlight on education and personal responsibility. YWCA is among the many organizations invested in this work. They launched their 21-day challenge back in 2019. At the time, 2,500 people signed on. And this month, more than 18,000 people across 48 states are choosing to take a deep personal dive into issues of structural racism and social inequity.
We've seen a lot of interest in the challenge growth since the protests around the murder of George Floyd. I think a lot of white people are kind of waking up for the first time to realize the depth of systemic racism. And this challenge really gives people the opportunity to get curious, to expand their knowledge, and gives them the tools to really dig in and hopefully become allies.
YWCA's Paige Robar says the goal of the challenge is to encourage participants to face how structural racism presents itself in everyday life. Robar says, "We know the problem. It's now time to take steps to make it right."
Reparations was a huge keystone for us this year because I think there's been so much conversation on the damage that systemic racism has done that the next step really is to get into how you repair that damage. And reparations seems like the clearest way forward.
Reparations is one of the more controversial topics surrounding giving back to the Black community. The idea that Blacks should be compensated for the atrocities of slavery trickling down to racist practices of more recent times doesn't sit well with everyone. But in an unprecedented move, Evanston, Illinois recently became the first city in the nation to pay reparations to Black residents who suffered housing discrimination between the years 1919 and 1969 or their descendants. But this isn't the first time reparations has been attempted in America. It also happened during the Reconstruction era, right after the Civil War.
There was an attempt to give Black people, enslaved people land and ensure voting rights and all of these things that were eventually rolled back during the Jim Crow era. It continues now with the legacy of redlining, with the wealth gap.
The 21-day challenge devoted an entire week focusing on reparations alone.
We're still trying to fix damages that are happening right now at this moment.
All right, we have 15.
George Floyd is thrust back into the forefront of our minds as his accused killer's trial gears up as the world remembers when cities erupted in rallies and protests over his passing, putting one collective voice to a persistent and perpetual problem in this country: racial and social injustice.
Systemic racism impacts all Black people in America, not just those who are direct descendants of enslaved people.
Well, tonight, our Turning Point special focuses on the death of George Floyd and the trial of Derek Chauvin. Join January, Jim Donovan, and Sarah Shookman right here on 3 at 7 p.m.